Okay, so here's a couple other things that you can keep in mind when you conduct these searches on our library databases. Um, in one of the previous videos, I noted that your search here is really only covering a short span of years from 1982 to 2014. And I tried to change this. Watch what happens. I want to search from 1954. Look what happens. It switches back to 1982, which tells us that this education full text is really only cataloging things that were published after 1982. What you get in your search results will then only be limited to those years. And that's fine, right? Because nothing relevant about privacy has been published prior to 1982. Not exactly, right? So we need to go back and try some other databases. I'm going to look at JSTOR because it is multidisciplinary, and in this case, the issue of privacy pretty much transcends all academic disciplines. So what does JSTOR offer that the EBSCO education full text does not? Well, a couple things, and I'll talk about them here and in class. I usually do the advanced search, and here are a couple important caveats. First of all, by default, this button, include only content I can access. Uncheck that. That is quite pesky. As you saw in the last video, interlibrary loan is extremely easy. And so anything you find on JSTOR that you cannot access is still useful to you. Just because you can't get it online doesn't mean, or at least online immediately doesn't mean that it's not worth knowing, right? That's essentially blinding yourself to information that exists. So uncheck that box. Then we're going to limit what we find. We want articles and books. We don't want the rest of these things. Now, I'm going to do the same kind of search that I did before with privacy, and I'm going to give a date range. So here's something that is pretty interesting in this respect. JSTOR searches holdings that go way, way back. Now, if I was interested in thinking about privacy, not just as an internet issue, but as a basic issue, I'm going to search for things that have been written on privacy before the introduction of the internet. So I might try something like 1942. I'll say sort of post-war kind of thinking about privacy. So I'll go from 1942 to maybe 1980. So that's going to limit what I find to these years. Still a narrow span of years. So I'm going to click on search, see what comes up. Now notice here, because JSTOR searches quite a number of journals, we have 16,091 search results. And this is useful. You can organize it by relevance, that is what sort of matches your search terms best. In this case, since I only have one search term, the relevance isn't exactly right. But you notice you can click on oldest. So this will give me the sort of earliest stuff in my date range. Now, what are people interested in about privacy before there were things like Facebook to worry about? So you can kind of scroll through and see what kinds of things people were writing about privacy. And a lot of different stuff, but fascinating stuff, right? Another thing that you might do here in a search is add online policy, maybe expand the date range here. We'll still say 1942 at the bottom, and we'll go to 2014. And notice here there's all kinds of disciplines and the number of titles of journals that it's going to be searching through. Those are journal titles, not article titles, right? So there are 406 journals that cover ecology and evolutionary biology, and it will search all the articles in every single issue of a certain date range. All right, clicking on search again. And again, I'm going to sort by the oldest. So if I want to keep scrolling through here, I might find basically when people are starting to use the word privacy and online in the same publications. Now, of course, online doesn't exactly mean quite what it means now in 1968, but worth sort of probing the relationship there. University of Oregon Computers and the Law. Notice this date, 1974. That's the year I was born. So this gives you a sense that the issues of privacy and electronic computing have been important for a very long time, much longer than maybe we're encouraged to think by our current moment, which seems sort of, like big changes are afoot because of these social media things that are available now that weren't before. But we can tell from just even the search that these are issues people have been kind of working through for a long time. The privacy issue, computerized, right? So as long as there have been computers, privacy has been a concern. And we are faced with quite a number of articles that were written even before 1980, which gives you a sense of the limitations of what you're seeing here, right? There's a lot of stuff that might be of interest even before 1980. Notice also we have different media coming in. Here, something about television. You also have different contexts, right? You have university context, workplace context. A lot of these are about workplace issues. And this is only page 1 of 374 records. So it's true that often when you do searches, you're going to have something very specific in mind, and nobody wants to come through 374 pages of references. But if you're just starting out, sometimes it's actually kind of fun to just see what's there, see what people have written on. The other thing is it gives you a wide sense of the academic disciplines that are looking at similar issues from different perspectives. So this here, the Audit Trail System Support and Advanced Computer-Based Accounting Systems, this is in a journal called the Accounting Review. Look at the journal right below it, the Journal of Sex Research. So all of these things are about privacy. Are they very different? Absolutely. We have something in the Public Historian, MIS, that's quarterly, and that's Management Information Systems, I believe. American Libraries, interfaces, so quite a number of different things. JSTOR is really good about having a lot of stuff. So you have to be really good at modifying your search and making it more and more specific once you find the kind of thing you're interested in. Now, one way of doing this is when you do run a search like this that's very broad and you find something that is really what you want, sort of on the nose, this is exactly what I'm interested in, when you get to that item, for every item there's going to be a way to sort of focus in on that subject. So this right here has a list of references. These are all the references that this particular author cites. Now, once you read her article, you may not need to read all these articles. However, you may find that there's quite a bit of stuff in the bibliography that now you can look for. So this, for instance, you're not going to find this on an academic database, Privacy Online, a report to Congress from 1998. But there is a web URL. Now this may not actually still be an active link, but you can try it out, see if it's there. So for everything you find, there's always more references. The other thing that's kind of interesting is that JSTOR tracks items within its databases that cite this. So who is reading Mary Coleman's essay and then citing it in their own published work? That's a really interesting thing as well, and can give you a good sense of more research that's been done that builds on what this particular article does or has some kind of relationship with it. And here again, because JSTOR tracks citations within its own database, that means you're going to have access to this stuff too. Again, either through the specific download in text availability or through interlibrary services.